Sunday morning, everybody. As you see, I'm back in my Stephen King shelf, and as promised, I'm going to deliver the top 12 books I've read recently, and this goes all the way back to last May up until technically July 4th, because I finished one of these on the 4th. So I have 12 books here. Let's get started with The Dark Half. I read this back in January, and it was one of the very first physical books I read this year, and I quite enjoyed the story because this was about a writer named what's his name? Thad Beaumont, and he is a mystery writer, and one of his characters comes to life named George Stark, and he wants to take over his life. George Stark is really, really brutal, but otherwise this story kind of like fell flat for me. I kind of like forgot what even happened, and I read this like 6 months ago, so overall I gave this 3 stars. It's good, but not one of my favorites. That's The Dark Half. At number 11 is Thinner. This is one of 2 Bachman books I have on this list, and this was another decent one, but it could have been better, in my opinion. This is about a lawyer who runs over a gypsy man, and the daughter gives him like a weight loss curse, and he just wastes away. It's a pretty sad story at the end, but at the end, and there is going to be a little bit of spoilers in this video, so bear with me. In the end, he bakes this pie, and his wife and daughter eat it, and they waste away, so he decides to do the same thing. That pie was meant for the gypsies, and overall, really decent story, but it could have been better. Like I said, I gave this 3 stars as well. Thinner. Next up, at number 10, Cycle of the Werewolf. And this is a very, very short novel. It's got a ton of really, really cool illustrations, and this is just about a werewolf cycle in this town, and it just depicts what happens to the townspeople, and it's a really, really good one. I read this last Halloween, practically in like 2 sittings, and really enjoyed it. So I did give this 3 stars because it was so short, but otherwise it was a very, very entertaining read and very easy to get through. I mean, look at that. So that's Cycle of the Werewolf. And at number 9, I have Salem's Lot. A lot of you are wondering why this is so low on the list. This was his 2nd published novel, and it's about a group of vampires who plagued the town Salems Lot. And enjoyed this, reading it last October. But it kind of got slow at some parts, but I was expecting a little bit more out of it, but I ended up giving this 3 stars. It's not a bad one, but it could have been so much better. And I did watch the original miniseries. I love the miniseries a little bit more than the book, but it was just okay to me. But that is Salem's Lot at number 9. At number 8 is another surprise that it's ranked this low, and that is The Long Walk. This is the other Bachman book I read, and I read this in November of last year. This was a very, very good one, and it really made me exhausted just reading it. It's about like these group of boys who go on this annual event called the Long Walk, and they basically have to like walk until they die, and if they stop, they get shot dead in the street by the moderators. Now, I've talked quite a bit about this book on my channel, so I can't shut up about it, but I finally gave you my thoughts and opinions on it and ranked it. So that is The Long Walk. From here on out, all of these other books are rated 5 stars. So let's start with number 7, The Dead Zone. I read this in April, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's about this man who gets into a coma and develops these supernatural powers where he can like tell the future of what's going to happen, and the press came to his life and was wondering if he was real or fake, and he ends up getting into like this assassination plot. It's a very, very interesting story, and I really, really enjoyed this. So I really need to watch the movie as well, and I heard that's supposed to be very, very good. But that is my ranking of The Dead Zone at number 7. At number 6, I got Skeleton Crew. This was his second published short story collection. This has 22 stories in it, and surprised this ain't ranked higher, but there are some not so good ones in here. Watch my video on ranking the stories in Skeleton Crew to see where all these end up at, but my top 3 are The Mist, The Raft, and The Reach. All 3 of these stories are very, very well done, and I really enjoyed this quite a little bit more than Night Shift because it has elements of horror, sci-fi, and magical realism, and very, very good collection. Skeleton Crew. Number 5. Yeah, number 5 I have Revival. I read this back last August, and this literally took me a week to get through, and I enjoyed every minute of it. This is about a man who befriends a preacher who is overcome with grief, and he has the power to heal people, and he just gets very overpowered. And this is a very, very well done book in my opinion, and I really want to see a movie out of it. Got a really, really messed up Lovecraftian ending, and everything just goes haywire. This is a very, very good book. If you haven't read Revival yet, read it. That's number 5. Number 4 is my most recent finished book, That is The Green Mile. This was probably the most depressing and saddest, brutal novels I've ever read. If you don't know the story of The Green Mile by now, then what are you doing? But, a prison guard named Paul Edgecombe who befriends this giant inmate named John Coffey. And John Coffey was convicted of raping 2 little blonde girls, but he's a gentle giant. There was no way he could have did all this brutality, and we know what happens to John Coffey in the end. And I about bawled my eyes out in the last 50 pages. I had to put it down for a while, but he gets Old Sparky, which is the electric chair, and very, very, very good novel here. That is The Green Mile. Top 3. It's going to surprise a lot of people, but number 3 is Different Seasons. Now, I put this very high on the list because all these stories are very, very well done. This collects Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, Apt Pupil, The Body, and The Breathing Method. And we know what Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption is about. It's about this accountant who gets framed for murdering his wife, but he didn't do it, and he befriends a fellow prisoner named Red, and they try and think of a way to meet up in the future when they escape. And very, very well done novella, but in my opinion, I love the movie a little bit more. So, on the Apt Pupil, this was about a teenager who befriends a past Nazi officer, and the Nazi's officer influence flows over him, and he becomes psychotic. The kid does, and one of the darkest endings I've read in any King work thus far. And I've read quite a bit of dark stuff from Stephen King. But that ending in Apt People, I was like, And then The Body, of course, is the premise for Stand By Me. And it's about these 4 boys who discover a dead boy who got ran over by a train. And they try and beat the bullies there before they get there to become famous. Very good coming of age story, and I loved every minute of The Body. It's easily my favorite novella in this collection. And the final story, The Breathing Method. Now that was a brutal story, because it was about this doctor who takes care of this pregnant woman, and we go on a journey of the pregnant woman's story, and in the end, she gets decapitated while she's pregnant, and her head is still alive, and the doctor just screams in horror. Very, very good one, and a very weird story, but I enjoy every single one of these stories. That is Different Seasons. Now the top 2, I had to do a little bit of rearranging, but I think I have my top 2. So let's pull it up. The runner-up is The Stand, the complete and uncut edition. I read this last summer, all 1,153 pages of it, and I enjoyed every minute of it, except for book 2 because that like really dragged. But otherwise, this was about a super flu who wiped out 99.4% of the world, and you got the forces of good and evil and Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg. This is a really, really well-written story. And it's one of his earliest ones. If you haven't read The Stand by now, read it. I know it's a super long book, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. That's The Stand. And my number 1 book and my second ranking Stephen King books is 11/22/63. I read this last September, all in September. I mean, look how big this thing is. And this is about an English teacher who goes back in time to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and he befriends this girl named Sadie, and they fall in love, but she ends up passing away at the end. So otherwise, this is a very, very good novel, and I thought I'd hated it at first, but this was very well written, and I love every single minute of this, and I love the miniseries. That is my ranking of the 12 recent Stephen King books I've read from last May to this July. So let me know your opinion on some of these books, and we'll compare. Coming up next, I really have to think of like some ideas for filming, but I want to do some fun ones. So thinking about like doing like some quotes from Stephen King books or movies, and some more characters from certain novels. So I'll have to have some time to think about that, but I got other stuff to talk about here, and we'll talk later. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.